What's up, gamers? Maladeus here. I've been sitting on this video for quite a while, and I'm stoked to finally share it with you. So, welcome to my very first video about an amazing game called Shining Force. The year is 1993. And my family didn't own a gaming console just yet. My only access to video games was when we visited my uncle and he would let me play a Sega Genesis. He had a large assortment of games. Taz, X-Men, and Sonic the Hedgehog, they were the regular go-tos. But there was this one cartridge he had with a medieval-looking swordsman on the front, and that game was Shining Force. I imagined it to be a medieval fighting game, maybe like Altered Beast or Golden Axe. At least that's what my 7 or 8-year-old imagination had conjured up. When I popped in the cartridge, I quickly learned it wasn't that at all. Now, at this point in my gaming journey, I had never encountered a game where you had a save file. And looking back, this could have easily been one of those moments where I wasn't allowed to use my uncle's Sega Genesis anymore. Luckily, I had just loaded up my uncle's save file and I didn't overwrite anything. When I loaded up his game though, I had no context of what was going on. I was just dropped in this town. There was no sword fights to be had. There was no jumping around to evade attacks. Instead, this game had characters walking around and your only interaction was talking to them. Confused, disappointed, and immediately bored, I abandoned it and went back to the go-to games. Little did I know that Shining Force would soon become one of the most important games in my life. Now, fast forward to Christmas 1995. 9-year-old me is sitting in the living room opening up Christmas gifts, and to my surprise, I got my very own video game console. What console was that? Well, it wasn't a Sony PlayStation, but it was a Sega Genesis with, wait for it, 0 games. Actually, I think it might have come with a game, but if it did, I vaguely remember it. Later that day, we visited the rest of the family, and I got a much larger surprise. My uncle had decided to gift all of his Genesis games to me. This included Shining Force. Now, I still dismiss this game as all I thought you could do was walk around and talk to people. So I still stuck to the regular favorites. By the time the following summer rolled around though, after exhausting my small collection of games, I gave Shining Force another try, and this time, I would be hooked. So, I was a little older from my first attempt, but I still didn't know what an RPG was. I didn't even know what it stood for at the time. Now, today, I would have just asked Siri, but this was 1995 we're talking about. We were still 3 years away from Netflix renting you a DVD through the mail. This time, instead of button mashing my way to playing, I took it slow. I started a new game, but I did make sure to preserve my uncle's save. The initial opening of the game was captivating. Most games I've played up to this point, they didn't give you any backstory. And for a 9-year-old kid, dragons, dark mages, dimensions, it seemed this game had a much larger scope going on than the ones that I had played before. After a little bit of time in the opening town of Guardiana, you find yourself intertwined in this story as it unfolds. You and your Shining Force of friends are soon carted off to protect an ancient seal on the eastern side of the kingdom. Now, up until this point, I hadn't fought anything in the game, so I was kind of confused as what we were going to be doing. I certainly couldn't talk enemies to death, could I? After a quick carriage ride, it quickly became apparent that we were to play chess with the enemy. Again, being a child completely uninformed of anything RPG related, I had never encountered anything like this tactical style combat. It was unlike anything I'd experienced in a video game. A system where thought and planning trumped reflexes and button mashing for combos. A memorable moment from the first battle was when I got to the last enemy on the battlefield. I checked to see if my main character had any spells because Tao was out of magic. Well, it turns out he did. It also turns out it doesn't do any damage. However, it did make me forfeit the battle and return to town. I was 9, everyone. I didn't know what egress meant. Looking back, there were plenty of moments like that I completely missed at the time, simply because the game didn't just spell it out for me. Take reviving characters, for example. I genuinely thought that once a unit fell in battle, they were gone for good. To be fair, finding Gong and Gort early on probably reinforced that idea. It made me believe that the world was just full of new recruits meant to replace fallen allies, rather than letting me realize they could just be revived. The more I played, the more I got hooked on this style of tactical gameplay. Now, it was tough at times, especially since I was pretty young, and this was back in the pre-internet days for me. No guides, no walkthroughs. There was nothing to help me strategize or find hidden characters. The only hints I had came from sneaking a peek at my uncle's save file. He was right at the end of the game, and seeing those fully upgraded characters, powerful weapons, and a full cast of allies was mind-blowing. I knew that my main character was eventually going to wield a lightsaber, and it made me want to keep playing. On my first playthrough though, I didn't manage to recruit every character my uncle had in his save file. Hanzo was missing, and that sent me down this rabbit hole. I kept replaying the game, convinced there were more characters I just hadn't found yet. I was a bit of a completionist even back then. I must have played through this entire game 5 times over in the next year, determined to get everyone. By the end, I was sure I had them all. I even started counting the empty chairs in the barracks at the end of the game, thinking that was the secret to knowing if I had the full roster or not. I played this game so much that one night, my mom caught me up sitting in bed, sleep-talking while petting the cat. When she asked what I was doing, I apparently told her, "I'm giving Tiger a promotion so he can heal." Safe to say, Shining Force had completely taken over my brain, even in my sleep. This game had me captured in every way. The vibrant visuals, the fresh gameplay, and the music. Oh man. I am pretty sure I can still hum every single melody from Shining Force on demand, even 3 decades later. The visuals though, this game went all out for its time. Every character had multiple models, a portrait, a top-down sprite, and even a unique battle animation. That was a lot for a game this old. Sure, some characters shared models with just a color swap, but there were still plenty of unique designs to keep things interesting. Now, looking back, was this a stereotypical narrative of a hero versus a dragon? Yeah. While it was straightforward with not many plot twists, it was executed with charm. For me as a kid, it was fresh and exciting, and it was the perfect introduction to fantasy storytelling in a video game. I love how the story mixed medieval fantasy with science fiction nearing the end of the game. I mean, dragons and robots on the battlefield together was truly something to behold. I'm glad I finally got to make this video, and I really hope you guys all enjoyed taking this trip down memory lane with me. Originally, I planned on making more of a traditional game review, but let's be real, there are already a ton of great reviews of this game out there. Instead, I wanted to do something that was more personal. I wanted to share my story with the game. And honestly, that was inspired by none other than Johnny Millennium of the Happy Console Gamer Show. I've been watching Johnny's channel for years, and his passion for gaming is a huge reason why I wanted to make this video. So, big shout out to John. Thank you for all the amazing content you've given us over the years. For my next video, I plan on taking on a challenge. I want to defend an RPG that, well, let's just say doesn't get much love. This was actually the second RPG I ever played, and it was also gifted to me that same Christmas all those years ago. And yeah, most people say it's the worst game in the series, and they're right, it was. But I played this without knowing the rest of the series, so I think I have a unique perspective on this game, and I'm gonna set out to make a case for it. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope I'll see you again sometime soon.